Hello again. In our week 2 materials, I also gave you a link to the Google Earth download site. And that's what I have pulled up here on the page. And I want to spend some time giving you kind of an introduction to this software. Again, hopefully, as with the Google Maps and the other basic mapping packages, hopefully you've had a chance last week to explore with some of this on your own and download and install this software. Many of you probably already have used this and already had it installed. But again, it's important that we all kind of get on the same page, so to speak, here with what we have installed and where we are with using it. And so I apologize if this is information that you already know. But again, just in case some people haven't used it, wanted to share a little bit with you what little I know about this software. Again, it's as with all of the online mapping stuff, this online mapping world is changing so rapidly that I believe it's hard for anyone to keep up with, especially those of us like myself that just dabbles with this from time to time. I tend to use ArcGIS desktop most of the time, and use some of these other packages just sporadically. So it seems like every time I get into them, there's something new that's changed. But now I have used Google Earth quite a bit. I do a lot of, I guess you could say, exploring with it and look at different locations that I like to visit or places that I have visited and things like that. And so I've used it probably a little more than I have even the Google Maps. And as with you, if you've been using it, I'm sure you find it just fascinating. I mean, it's incredible the technology and the speed with which it works and so forth. So let's get into a little bit of it and let's see what we can find. So on the site, if you haven't downloaded it already, then the link on our class site will take you to this page. And we're interested in just the Google Earth version for now, not the Google Earth Pro. The Pro, they sell you for $200-300 a year. It's a yearly subscription, and it gives you some more features. But from what I understand, a lot of the maps are very much the same. I think you can download maps a little bit more with the Pro version at a higher resolution, that kind of thing. And you also get access to a few layers that you don't have with the regular version, such as parcel mapping and things like that. So it's probably well worth the money if you need that and are working at a place that's willing to buy your subscription for that. But for our use, we're just going to use the regular Google Earth version that's available for free. So you'll want to follow this link to do the download, and you can do it a couple ways. If you can just download it here, they're assuming I think that you're going to get the free version with this one, or you can follow this link, and when you do, it will take you to a page that basically lets you know that hey, Google has other products available for Google Earth as well. So you can get the desktop, which is what we're going to talk about today. You also can get the web version, which is sort of like an embedded maps version. I'll show you that in a minute. And you can get the mobile version for your cell phone if you've got a smartphone or a tablet. And most of us, I realize, do nowadays. Just a year or two ago, it wasn't necessarily the case. So if we get a chance, we'll dabble a little bit with the mobile applications. Not today, but we'll work a little bit with those, and I'll at least share with you some of the mobile apps that you might want to download and try as we get into other mapping programs as well. On the web version, let me click that link for just a minute, just to let you know I already have it downloaded, so you can see it's working here on the screen. In a minute, you'll see it pops up with the Google Earth interface. If this doesn't pop up for you, then that means you probably do not have the plugin installed for the online version of it. So go ahead and get that. If you don't have it, you might want to get that. It's very handy if you go to a site that's using Google Earth and embedded maps on their site, then you'll have access to those maps right there on your web screen. So you probably want to get that here at some point, even though today what we're going to focus on is the desktop version. So on the desktop version, if you follow that link, it will take you to a page that gives you lots of information that I would recommend bookmarking this page. You'll notice you've got the Explore link up here. You've got some Learn links, and it will basically share information with you to help you learn more about Google Earth than what I'm going to be able to give you today, though I'll try to give you some of the highlights of it at least. So from here you can download it and install it, and I think they're up to like version 7 or so now. And let me switch over. I've got it open now. Once you've installed it and everything, if it doesn't open on its own, go ahead and open it up. And I've got it on my other monitor, so I'm going to move it over here where you can see it on the recording. And this is what it looks like when it opens up. Okay, when you first open it, it zooms into an area, and it's kind of cool how it all works. And you've got lots of information sort of from your command center here. The one thing you can do that you might want to do in the beginning is now they have a sign-in link, and if you sign in, it helps with a variety of things. Like we mentioned on the previous video, it tells Google a little bit about you. I mean, it tells them about how you're using their products, what areas you like, you're most interested in. That's the privacy sharing part that you may or may not like. So you don't have to sign in. But if you also, sometimes that's good, because sometimes when you're doing searching for information and things like that, it's handy if the site knows a little bit about your past interests, because it helps it to better target results for you and things when you're doing searches. And it also, in this case, gives you some other options for sharing maps and capturing screenshots and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead on my account and sign in. And when you sign in, remember I mentioned in a previous video that you can have multiple Google accounts, and in my case I've got one set up for Rhone State. And so that'll make sure I'm switched into that account. And notice I get a second dialog that opens up here, a little option called Share. And if I click that, you can see that you can share screenshots of your maps with Google+. You can email an image to somebody. You can email a view. Excuse me. And there's different variety of things you can do here. That's kind of interesting. And on the screen now, in the lower right, when I'm on the globe here, you'll notice I was going to move down with my mouse so you could see it. Let me zoom in a little bit so it fills up the screen where I can pan around a little better with my mouse. But in the bottom down here, it's giving you the coordinates in latitude and longitude of wherever you are on the map. Okay, and it's giving you elevation, giving you the eye altitude, which I assume is the distance from the ground that you're looking. So it's where we are right now. And according to this, we're like 2,500 miles above the Earth, looking down on the United States here in Mexico and some of Canada. Also, there's a thing called Tour Guide here, which, sorry about that, and my menu bar pops up too. So, but if I click on Tour Guide, it shows me different places that exist within the view. It's sort of live links to the view. So I'm looking at the U.S., so it's showing me different places that people have captured, whether it's been pictures or videos or whatever, for different locations around the U.S. If I scroll in by live link, what I mean is it will change. Like if I click or zoom into the Tennessee area, it's going to show me places in Tennessee down here on the tour guide. Now I'm going to turn off, I've got on the left here, I'll talk about that in a minute, I'm going to uncheck this primary database so that everything gets turned off for a moment, okay? And I'm going to uncheck some things that I had been playing with. It remembers what you've done. So it was showing some information that I had put on there for a map I'd made a while back. So anyway, we're in the Tennessee area. You can't see the outline right now because I turned everything off. We'll turn it back on here in a minute, but just to let you know that it is live link down here. So you'll see this tour guide. And what this does is it takes you to, again, places like pictures at sometimes. It will, see in this case, it's basically playing a little tour movie, and it will zoom into different links automatically depending on who created it and how they set it up. but it may actually, in some cases, it may fly into different places. In this case, it's just highlighting some different places, and I can select one, and it will pop up information about that link. And it's giving me yet more options that I can go to for different pictures and places. Just another feature that they added a while back. Let me just try another one just in case it may. Yeah, this one's actually flying in a little closer. Sometimes, again, they'll take you to an actual movie or video that they show. But this one's highlighting the Clarksville area and some of the interesting places in that area. And I can follow through the pictures and scroll through them if I like. So it's a really neat, it's Explorer is a good term for it. You'll see the term Google Earth Explorer and things like that, because really it's great for that. I mean, you can explore the world with this thing. It's just incredible how many features they've packed into this one program that they make available for free. And so I encourage you to check it out and explore some of that if you haven't already. I'm going to minimize it for now on this end. And now I'm going to go over here on the left-hand side, and before I go too far, let me point out that there are help sites for Google Earth. Now, there's books out there, and I've got some links put in our summary of activities for week 3, I think it is, that will take you to some of the books that I found over the years that are available and so forth. But the problem is that they update the software so rapidly that it's very hard for the books to stay up to date. So some of the books you may find on that list may be dated already. I'm sure they are to this newer version, but at least they'll give you a ballpark of what it can do, and some of the features will be the same. They just tend to add more features over time, so they can still be useful. What I like to do and would recommend a cheaper alternative and a more up-to-date alternative is you might look to places such as Amazon.com and look in their Kindle books, and you can buy the Kindle books a lot cheaper usually, and they tend to be updated more regularly. And so you might check some of those out. I know at least one of the books I have on the list is to a book that is available on Kindle. But you can also go in the help area, and you can find information there as well. So you've got about Google Earth, but you've got these help resources here. And that will take you to a website that is basically they've recently renamed to their help center. And I like this approach that they're using. Google is tending to use this for a lot of their stuff. The Google Maps has something like this as well. And their new Google Maps, their Google Engine, they call it. The Google Maps engine has a center like this. And this is open. Notice in the window, they've got basically a browser integrated with Google Earth. And a lot of times I like to have it separate, which they make real easy for you by you can open it in Internet Explorer, click that option, and it will open that window in your actual browser instead of just in the Google Earth program itself. And once you're here, you can bookmark this page, and this gives you a great resource to come back, and they've got the most up-to-date information in here usually, and at least it's as current as you're probably going to find. And they've got it broken down into different sections. So it's got a section on all the features, more detail for sure than what I'm giving you today, but it's got lots and lots of information here. So if you haven't already found this, make sure to bookmark this now and take a look at this. I think you'll find this real helpful. So now let's go back to the program, and since it remembered I was in that little browser window within the program, it's got an option here to click to go back to Google Earth. So I'm going to click that, and it will take me back into the program. Where to start with this? There's a lot of features in this program. I'm going to go back over to the layers, and I'm going to turn on the primary database again, and I get it to come on here. Oh, interestingly, because I had unchecked that, it unchecked everything below it. So actually this is good because I can turn on what I want to. So I'm going to turn on the borders and the labels to start with. That gets me my states back, and it gets me the counties and some of the cities and so forth. And notice with Google, it will, it's kind of like with in ArcGIS, if you remember, you can set different scale extents for different layers to show up automatically at different scales of resolution. And Google has some of those predefined for you that are pretty good. I believe you can actually tweak those yourself if you ever need to, um, by going deep into the settings. But by default, it's pretty good. And it's showing me here, since I was zoomed into the Clarksville area, or at least to the county, it shows me the county name by using this borders and labels, that is. The county name, I've got the major cities in that county. The county boundaries, I can see the state boundary. As I zoom out, some of that detail will go away, and I will see other detail kicking in. And so, see the county at that level, I'm going a step at a time. At this step, the county level goes away, the county names go away, but I can still see the outlines for the counties. And if I back out far enough, I probably will see some that see Clarksville drops off there at a certain point, but Chattanooga remains in. Knoxville is still there, Nashville, so forth. So the farther away I zoom, the less detail I get automatically. So that's kind of nice. And so the states will stay there. At a certain point, you lose a lot of the cities, except for the major cities like Atlanta and some of the main features, which is interesting. The Blue Ridge Mountains is there. And if I move my mouse over that area, it kind of highlights that, by the way. You can see how that's doing that. But I can go even, like I can go within the borders and labels. There's a little plus sign. I can open that up and I can turn on or off what I want to in there to some extent. I can go into the borders itself and turn on or off different levels of detail. So if I don't want that Blue Ridge Mountains to show up, I would assume it's probably in the second level of detail. Nope. Not sure. It's coming out of another layer apparently. But you can tweak it to your liking in here. The thing to remember is that Google Earth will remember your settings for you, and when you start it back up, it will, if you save as you close, it will start back up with the way you had it last. So that's good or bad depending on what you're wanting to do. So just be aware of what's turned on or off down here in the layers section when you're using the program. And I'm going to close that back up. And there's lots and lots of other information in here. There's information on places. I can turn that on and it will give me some icons of major, like here's the Chattahoochee National Forest. I don't know why the Cherokee's not showing up, but if I zoom in, it will. I zoomed in one level there, and then I'm beginning to see the other national forests showing up. And you don't have a lot of control over that. It's not giving you an option to zoom into that in any more detail. So you basically turn that on or off. And photos, okay? And notice there's a plus sign by that. There's embedded within Google Earth, they've got different services. Some of the layers we've looked at so far was put in there by Google Earth, where there's also affiliates that have some of their information included with Google Earth as an optional layer that you can use if you like. And some of these are pretty neat. Some of them are less interesting. But this Panoramio is a site that I believe Google Earth purchased, and they now have that site. And it's kind of neat. It's panoramic photos. There's a lot of them. If I turn that on, you'll see just for the area we've got here, there's quite a few showing up. And as you zoom in, well, first if you hover over them, it will give you an idea of the label of what it is. We'll click on it in a minute, but I wanted to show when you zoom in, you'll get even more of those showing up. See? So if you zoom into the Smokies, for example, roughly into the Smoky Mountain area, you'll see a lot of them showing up in the Smokies, and you can hover over them. Some of them say untitled. Some of them have a name that gives you an idea what they might be. But until you click on them, you don't really know. So I'll just click on this one, and it shows me, it looks like a little drainage somewhere within the Smokies. Some of them have more detail than others. They just realize they're created by individuals that are contributing this information. So it's not controlled. So the level of detail and so forth that is included is up to the user that submitted that image. And you can upload your own images into Panoramio if you want and get them to show up. You can fly in, there's different neat options. You can fly into this photo's location. I'm going to click that, and notice how in the background it's zooming right into where that point is. And so it will zoom pretty close to that location. And again, the accuracy, and there's the location I closed it, we just had open. The accuracy of that is dependent on what the user submitted. So this may or may not be the exact point of where that feature is. Just depends on how accurate they were when they submitted that. So this appears to be a drainage. I don't see a drainage right here in this image, so I would assume it's somewhere in this vicinity. I can see there's a river or a creek coming into view there. So somewhere in this vicinity is where that is probably located. This is interesting because sometimes they're very accurate. So this depends again on the provider. So it looks to be Interstate 40, I would guess, and the power plant there along the Little Pigeon River, looks like to me. But so you've got that feature, and it's kind of interesting because there's lots of images that people have contributed over the years. And it's a good way to find things. You can go to the Panoramio, I guess, site as well, and you can do more exploring there if you like. And again, I believe Google purchased that site. So I believe your Google account will get you into that site. I don't think you have to set up a separate account for it. So you just sign in with your Google account, I believe, and you can start exploring, as they say. So check that out. It's a neat site. Sometimes those images are neat for letting you pan around. I guess that's how they got the name Panoramia. You can pan some of those images, which is neat. Sort of takes you into the image a little bit. And if that's not enough, then there's yet another service that's affiliated called this 360 Cities. And if you really want to get immersed into a scene, then try one of those out. I'm trying to find one. I would have assumed somebody would have surely submitted one for around the Smokies, but I don't see one showing up. Turn it off. Sometimes yeah, there's one. Sometimes you don't see them till you turn them on and off. It doesn't jump out at you. Somebody's put one in this area here, looks like, in North Carolina. And what will happen when you click on that, it will actually take you into the scene. So I'm going to click on it, and notice it gives me an option here to fly into that area. And it looks like it's a lookout here on, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, Wahea Bald. But if I click on this, it will fly me into that area, which is really cool, and takes you into a 360-degree image that somebody has created of that. It's almost like having Google Street Maps. And I can zoom in and out on that image a little bit, and I can pan around 360 degrees from that image. So it's pretty neat. And I mean, you look straight up, straight down. So it's interesting that these have been created. I'm not sure who creates these. I would assume it's like anything else that you can submit them yourself if you have a photo and the technology that's using that. But pretty neat. You can see some great views, and usually there's a lot of those located, and I'm not sure why not many were showing up on our image there. But if we had zoomed in, it probably would have seen more. So I'll exit out of that, and then it flies you back out. But it doesn't take you exactly to where you were. It just takes you back out to sort of a base level before you get into the true like 3D fly mode that Google Earth has. So before we get into that, there seems to be the lookout. So you can see that one's off just a little bit, but it's pretty close. And it leaves you in enough of a 3D mode that you get to see another feature there of Google Earth that I was going to bring up. That's sort of the main thing that people like about it, I guess, is that it gives you the option to do these fly-throughs. So before we talk about any other the layers, let me just pick up on that, and we'll go back into this last location. And notice how the screen is becoming more like a 3D perspective, and I'm getting a view of of something like you would have with the Google Streets in the Google Maps. But this is really cool because once you're in this zone, you can pan around in the image, or it's much easier if you use, I usually move my mouse off to the side and then use my arrow keys. And on the arrow keys, you can literally fly through the image. And it's neat. You've got your up, down, left, and right arrow key. If you hold the shift or control key, then it will do different things. Like I'm holding the shift key down now and I'm panning to the right, and it's basically spinning me around that place where I was located. So it's giving me the view. I can tilt it a little bit. If I keep the shift key down and hold the up or down, it tilts it up or down. So between all of those, I can get the image just like I want it. And your control will also, if you hold control, so shift in the arrows tilt it, control in the arrows flies you up higher or down lower. So it tilts a little bit as it goes up, I notice, but between the shift key and the control key and your arrow keys, just play around with those a little bit till you get comfortable with them, and you'll find that it's pretty neat what you can do with them. Once you get used to them, it will literally let you fly around. Now the other thing you can do is use your plus and minus key to zoom in and out. So if you want to zoom in a little bit on the image, hold down your plus key, and then you can hold your up arrow key and you can actually fly around. And so with my shift key, I can turn it a little bit, or I can spin it with the control key. I can literally spin over that one spot all the way around 360 degrees. And then I can proceed to fly through the image then by holding my arrow keys down. So it's pretty neat. This is, I mean, you can see how this can be very addicting. So I encourage you to check this out if you haven't already, which I'm sure most of you have. But really neat feature. And you can even get, and I don't know if I've got it hooked up or not, but I have a special mouse that I use that wish I could show you an image of it, but it's live on mine, so I can use it. But it's called it's Navigator. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's made by a company named 3D Connection, and I think it's called Space Navigator. And if you go to, let me just bounce, since we're talking about it, let me bounce on the web, and I'll take you to a web link for that in case anybody is interested. You can buy one of these for about $100, I think. Let's see what the price is now. Let me see if it's Space Navigator. Oops. There we go. And yeah, you can buy one of these for under $100 now. Looks like $79. And these are really cool. So here's basically what it looks like. So you've got this little, and they make all different kinds. This company makes a lot of different things. But this Space Navigator is the one I have. And so it's round. It's like a paperweight. It's kind of heavy on the bottom to hold it down so it doesn't move around real easy. And you grasp this thing in the palm of your hand, in your left hand. And what's cool is you can still use your mouse as well. But this thing functions like a mouse. And so, let me minimize that. And so I can take with this and I can move around the image just like you do with your arrow keys. But the difference being it's much smoother and it's almost intuitive. Your features, it's like being in a plane. I mean, you can literally move in and out, up and down, all at the same time. So I can sit here and spin around without the kind of the jerkiness you would see with the mouse, for example. And if I want, I can take off and fly up high, tilt the thing down. It's like having a flight simulator, and it's really, really cool. So you can imagine how addicting this thing gets. But you can tweak this to get really cool views Like, you know, I don't know if this is a house or what that is there, but, you know, we can literally fly right into that area real smooth. Yeah, it looks to be a house or a cabin, and we can get the view that they would have from their porch, and just land this thing almost like a helicopter right into the deck of that, and then see the view that they get from there. Spin it around. Really cool. You notice it puts a little arrow on the screen. Um, it's kind of irritating, but at least it's telling you which directions, which functions you're using. And so you can really fine tune it with this. And see, I can pan around a lot more smoothly by just barely turning it. And it gives me a lot smoother image than I get with my arrow keys. So with one of these things, you know, like I say, it's a little spendy, more spendy than a regular mouse for sure, but I tell you, it's really addicting. So if you're interested, you might want to check one of those out. But they're made for these 3D type programs like Google Earth, and haven't got it working yet with the ArcGIS materials. It's a little harder to get it to working with some of those, but my understanding is that it will work with them. So anyway, check that out. Fly into that area. You can also use your mouse to move around on the same keys like you would have, or the same functions like you would have with the with the Google Maps. It's got but an extra one, I guess you might say. I mean, it's got your north arrow here, so you can rotate this thing around if you want to. You can also pan left or right, or north or south. But the neat thing is you can also hold it in the middle. You hold your mouse in the middle, you can kind of move it around a little bit, and you can get a little smoother with this than you can with the arrow keys. So I'm doing this with the mouse instead of the Space Navigator that I was just showing you, and you can see it. You can pan around pretty smooth with this. So this is nice, and you also can use the middle function up here to go to tilt and stuff as well. So you can even more smoothly I'm holding my mouse down and moving it around up and down and left and right. So this is probably the closest thing to that Space Navigator mouse for moving around more smoothly. And once you get, and you can combine the two. Once you're using this, you can use the arrow keys and move around a little bit as well. So, and then of course you've got your zoom in and out here as well, which works with the rolling the wheel as well on your mouse. So there's multiple ways to do things. And you have the little street navigator guy here as well, just like you did with the Google Maps, that you can use if you're in an area where they have mapped the streets. So all of that's available. We've talked about a couple of the layers. There are a lot of other layers in here that you might want to explore. At first cut, it looks like there's 10 or 12 layers, but when you delve into some of these, you find out that there's a lot within them. For example, just the gallery here. If I look in the gallery and turn that on, I get the 360-degree cities again, which is similar to the site we looked at earlier. But just look at the detail in here. There's every trail site, and this thing shows trails all over the country, and gives you lots of details about the trails. I don't know if I can find. Here's one showing up. If I click on this trail, it tells me the name, the Bartram Trail, and it will give me a text description of that, and some photos. Gives you some little details about how long it is and so forth. It also, if you're a member of Every Trail, you can upload your own trips, so you can write your own stories here if you like. And then it's got an option where you can view it on their website, or if you click this icon here, like a YouTube kind of icon, I believe it will fly me. Yeah, it turns it on the map in Google Earth, highlights it, and zooms into a view of the beginning of the trail. It opens up a photo, and I can see there are 22 of these, and you can see the points on the map. I can either click on a point on the map, or I can just route through it by clicking the arrow key here, and it will basically fly me from point to point, depending on how the person set it up that created that. So it gives you basically a tour. It's kind of like the tour feature. It gives you a tour of that trail created by whoever was the person that submitted that. And a lot of times they'll have photos, of course, embedded like they do here and things like that. So you can kind of fly through the trail even, and you can see it on the map. And again, you can click on an actual item as well, and usually move to that. So it's not doing it on that one, but pretty neat. So it shows me where how that trail lies, and you can turn that on and off over here in the layers. So turn it off, and it retains it on the screen though. Is what I've noticed about at least the Every Trail layer. And so that one is a little cumbersome sometimes to get rid of and clean it up. But what it does, if you notice, is it will put it up here in your places section. And I can see how I had the trip set option there. And that's what it did. When I activated it by clicking on it, it activated a layer up here in my places. What you can think of this section here as sort of it can be permanent or temporary, either way. You can save your places. If you create a lot of stuff you want to save that you don't want to lose, then you want to save it. And you can either go up here to File and Save, or when you exit the program, it will ask you if you want to save your places, and you can tell it yes. Now, because I added that trail, it basically put it up there in my places. I may or may not want to keep it indefinitely. So I can also right-click on that and say delete, and it will ask me if I really want to take that trip out and everything below it. But you notice again, let me cancel a minute. So if I expand the little plus sign, it shows me what is below it. And basically it made a folder called Trip Set, and it added that Bartram Trail to it. So if I had added some other trails, they would be showing up individually down here. I could either delete them individually or delete the whole folder, either way, and that's why it was giving me that warning a minute ago. So in this case, I'm just going to delete the whole folder. So I'll say delete, and we'll remove that. And that takes it out of my places. So as you explore things, occasionally they will get put up here into my places. Not everything does that. The Every Trail is one that does. And if you search for anything, it adds it into here as well. And notice it's putting them under this temporary places for now. And it put some of the Panoramio stuff that I was looking at earlier is stuck under there automatically. So I can take that out as well. I'm going to leave the temporary places folder there though, because that way it will automatically put other things in that location. Makes them kind of easy to find. There's some things in here on the trip I had made to the Cohutta that is being retained that I didn't take out. And there's a sightseeing tour that somebody had created that I had saved in there as well. If you search for something, it will put that in there as well. So if I search for, let's say I go to Frozen Head, and it's already found it here. It's forgot the word they use, but as you're doing the typing in the text, it will try to fill that in for you, and it will take you to that location. You can search for it there, and it will put it in your search results, and it will automatically take you to that location. So just remember that, and you might want to add that to your places. So if you do, just click on down here at the bottom. You have options. You can print out the details here. You can get directions. This is some interactivity with Google Maps. You can copy stuff to the clipboard to paste it later. Say I want to add this to my places. I can just click on this folder and it will add the Frozen Head. Notice how I added it under my places, not under the temporary. So let's put it under the my places. Now I can click on the little X here, and that will close out the search results. Yet I still have Frozen Head listed here into my places. And if I expand it a little bit, it's giving me the details about that specific place. Basically, it created a folder and stuck Frozen Head in that. So you might want to rename that folder. So say I'm going to put other places in there that might not be related to Frozen Head. I can click on that layer and then right click on it, click on rename, and I can go in there and let's call it Tennessee State Parks, and rename that folder to that. And that way, I might want to just add other state park information in there later on. So you can do that. You can move things around, drag and drop, cut and paste. You can organize basically within here. And that's what you'll find that you'll have to do pretty soon, because otherwise you'll start getting so much information that it becomes cumbersome it starts filling everything up. So you can go in here and organize that. You can delete things. That gives you some options for saving things, as well as organizing within that environment. So what else to show? Some of the other layers, again, there's other picture sites. They've got sites information from NASA, National Geographic, some historical mapping sites, Trimble Outdoors. Those of you that have GPS units, this is kind of neat because they have a service that you can subscribe to for a fee, but you can get maps from Trimble that's sort of similar to the EveryTrail that we were looking at earlier, but with more detail. You can add your own Trimble outdoor maps. So there's lots of ways you can contribute, not just to Google Earth directly, but indirectly through these other services as well. And so there's and you can get information out of some of that as well. So depending on the service and the detail that they have with it, you can actually get layers out of here that you can use back in your ArcGIS program, and vice versa. So we'll go into that a little bit later. We'll say that for some more advanced areas, but just wanted you to know that through what they call KML files, and you probably remember that from seeing that in the ArcGIS, but KML is a proprietary format that a company came out with that Google purchased early on. And so it's all kind of tied in with Google now. But the KML format has really expanded over the years, and it's become so popular that it's automatically built into GPS units now and things like that. So I wouldn't say it's the same thing as a shapefile, but it is yet another format of a layer that you can use, and even ESRI has picked it up now to letting you import and export KML files out of ArcGIS software. And that's really opened up the door to getting a lot of data. It's another data source for us in essence, because you can create things or you can basically turn layers on. You can create things as well. You can put points and lines and polygons of your own into Google Earth. But you also can get all these layers like we're seeing here and from other sources available for free, and you can actually convert them into a KML file that you can then import into your ArcGIS. So it becomes another data source for us in the ArcGIS world, and it's really growing in popularity, even though a lot of people have no idea of the kinds of things that we're talking about now that you could do with that information. So that's part of the reason to share this with you. I wanted you to realize that not only is this a cool tool to be able to play around with, to explore places with, and things like that, but it's also another source of data that you might potentially use in your ArcGIS projects. And it works both ways. Now that they've got the export feature built into ArcGIS, you can actually export information and put it in to Google Earth as well. So it's very nice. Makes it a lot more powerful, and makes it, to me, a lot more similar to GIS than what it used to be when it first came out. So these products are they're gradually gaining in power and capabilities over time, and it's made it very very fascinating for all of the varieties and sources of information that you can use with them now. So again, there's just lots and lots of layers in here, and you can go to their help site and find out more. But check it out. There's weather, for example. You can get the latest radar imagery and so forth, and have that right embedded onto your Google Earth maps as well. And it's global awareness. Just curious what they've added into there lately. You see a lot of the environmental groups in there, and this is growing over time. I mean, all of these are growing over time. And then they just got a more at the bottom. I like that. So you've got just an other there. You can link to Wikipedia articles. They've got airports, so if you want to get, again, when we get into a little more detail, you can actually get KML layers for lots of these kinds of things through this source now. And they've even got a government category there now. And I'm just curious what they've got in there. Okay, yeah, this so far just mainly the kinds of layers that we tend to already have through our other avenues in ArcGIS, but they do have the boundaries for the congressional boundaries and post office or zip code boundaries, city boundaries, and things like that. So lots of different layers there to explore. So we've talked about the places. You can expand these, by the way. I can close them all up if I want to. You can. It looks like you have to have at least one open at a time, though, at least, or you can open them all. And you can drag this, expand it a little bit, or close it. You can turn it on or off completely. Over here, you can hide it and have just the map. So we've talked about the search. We've talked about, well, we talked a little bit about the search. We've talked about places. We've talked about the layers. In the search, you can search for addresses, city names. This search is pretty broad in terms of its use. So you can find places. It's basically very similar to using their regular search engine. So if you've got addresses and things like that you want to locate, you can use this search engine to get those point locations. Across the top here, we've got a whole variety of different options that we can use. We can put points in. We can add what they call a place mark. If we wanted to add a place mark, say here of our own, wherever you're centered at on the very center of the map, whenever you click that tool, that's where it puts a tentative locator. I can drag that around and put it, more precisely if I would like. And it's untitled right now, so. And it pops up an info window, which it's popped up on my other screen. So let me move it over here so you can see it. And I'm going to reduce the size a little bit here of it so it's not taking up all of our screen space. But you can see that it gives you an option to give it a name. So I'm just going to call it Marks Test 1. And it automatically put latitude and longitude in there for us. And we can put a little description if we want. And we can go in and we can add different colors and styles to the label, to the icon. We can set different options of how we want that to appear when you click on it, basically. Zoomed in, how much tilt do you want, and so forth. I'm just going to say OK for now. We won't add a lot there to it. But notice how when I hover over it, it pops up there to let you know you're on it. And notice it put over my places, it added that Marks Test 1. Okay? And a little bit of text about what I had started putting on there with it. Now, I can click on it over here, and it will pop up the info window. Okay, or I can just click on it out here, and it will pop up the info window, similar to what we had in Google Maps. And we can get directions and so forth. But you can do even more with this. Now, we're just scratching the surface here, but again, with some HTML knowledge, you can actually make this info window into a more of a interactive info window. You can basically embed links to other sites, other photos, or things like that within this info window if you like. It's a little more advanced than what we're going to get into today, but just wanted you to know that you can do that. So anyway, you can add points in there. You can draw, you can add polygons, you can add a path. And in this path, another cool thing with the path is there's a feature that will let you do a tour of your own, as we'll see in a minute. I'll show you the link anyway to it. But you can make a path of different source that goes through different points, and then you can turn that into a tour of your own that flies through the map. So that's really cool. And there's the record a tour option. And you can show historical imagery. Like if I click on this, it shows me the different years of imagery they have for this. It's live linked to the scene that you're at. So on this zoomed in level where I'm at now, I have maps going back to 1997. And everywhere there's a little line, a little tick mark here, is where they've got a new map. So I can click this and travel back in time by jumping back in dates. So there I'm going back to 2012. And notice it's taken at different times of the year, different angles of the camera and so forth. So some of them will have pretty drastically different looks to it. Some of them quite interesting. See, there's less detail available in this one than the previous one. And you're going to find that's generally true. Usually as you go back, the quality of the imagery was lower. But you can see that some were taken in different times of the year by just looking at the tree cover. Here's one that seems to be more in the winter time. And you can go all the way back to, in this case, 1997. And a lot of the imagery was in black and white even then. And so this was taken from, and notice the source down here changes. This is the U.S. Geological Survey provided that one. If I scroll back through time, you can see how that changes. So there's a digital globe for the source and so forth. So we saw Farm Service Agency in there. So anyway, that's another handy thing to look at. You can change how the sunlight varies across it. It's automatically set at a default angle. You can change that. And if you really want to get out of this world, you can fly to other planets. Okay, so they've got also have an underwater feature, I believe. I don't see it in the top here, but I believe they also have an oceans view that they're working on now. And you can turn on or off the ruler. We'll leave it off for now. And you can email links to your favorite places to other people and things like that. You can save an image. You can switch to the Google Maps view. So these can all be very handy depending on your needs. The image is kind of neat because it will actually save an image out of your current view into a JPEG that you can use in other programs or print out and put on the wall or whatever. So be sure to check that out. Notice the historical part puts a timer at the bottom. When I clicked on that, I have this timer. I don't recall it being there before, but it will jump all the way to 1997 if I wanted to, I guess. So anyway, check some of these features out. Lots of things you can do here, and there's even more. I mean, we could have a whole class just on using Google Earth, but we don't have time for all of that. They even have a flight simulator. So I'm giving you the highlights here, and we'll expand on this a little bit in future classes. Just hopefully giving you enough here to give you an incentive to get in there and play with it some more yourself. We can even set our GPS up to where it's integrated live, I believe, with Google Earth. So go through and look at some of the features, play around with it, and send me a link to something. Trying to think of the best way for you to do that. I don't really care that you make it super fancy. It's sort of like we were doing with the Google Maps. Just send me something to show me that you've been working with it a little bit, I guess. It'd be interesting to see. So you can share something with me. But again, one of the problems we have here is that you won't be able to email it to me at our Momentum site. So I'm trying to think of the best thing to do. We might can get a link. Let me see what we can find here. probably the safest thing to do for now is use your screen capture tool. And you can either save out an image by following this link and making a JPEG of your view, or if you want me to see your entire screen, just do a screen capture. Either way is fine, and make a JPEG, and then load, do a few of those and load those up into our Dropbox just load those up into the Dropbox. I believe you can just upload those as an attachment into the Dropbox would be fine. Give it a try. I mainly just want you to see something that's showing that you're using the program at this point. Again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. We'll get it a little more detailed with these things as we move along. But just want to know that you're playing with it a little bit and give you some practice at doing some exporting in JPEGs and things like that. A little later, we'll look at how we can put a KML file into this and out of this, into and from ArcMap. So we'll do that soon. I'll try to make another video on that. I just wanted to keep this one pretty basic as an introductory video for now. So with that, I guess I'll stop. We went almost an hour here. Just give it a try on your own. Play with some of these features. You'll learn there's a little quirkiness with some of this. I mean, some of these things you'll save, like when you're drawing polygons and putting points in there and stuff, you'll see that it will create individual entries over here in your My Places. You can get creative and go in there and make a folder and drag and drop those into that folder. It's kind of like grouping, making a group in ArcMap, which is nice in a way because it lets you turn all of those on and off as a group. So for example, I could have several points, and I believe I can even mix polygons and points under the same group, and I could turn the entire group off with one click instead of having to go through and individually click the layers that way. For example, the way it's set up now, I can turn my Places off, and it shuts everything I have in My Places off. So I might not want that. Would rather just be able to turn these points I'm putting in on and off and leave everything else on. So that's why I might want to make a folder out here and then put these points that I'm adding into that folder. So play around with it a little bit. That's the best way to learn this. We can do demos all we want, but until you get in there and just start practicing on your own, that's when you'll see the little intricacies of the program and learn a little bit more about it. And again, realize that, as neat as all this is, it's not really the same as ArcMap. So I used to be fond of saying that, we're not dealing with a GIS here, we're dealing with a mapping program. But that's not quite true any longer because they have added enough functionality to the software with Google Earth and Google Maps as well that you can integrate data from other sources on your own. And to me, that's getting it much more like a GIS. While we're still limited mainly on the analysis capabilities, even that is beginning to grow. And you can do things like calculate acres now and things like that with some of this software. So it is getting a lot better. And given that it's available for free and that lots of people have it and that it's so intuitive to use as compared with some of the more detailed GIS programs like ArcGIS, then you could understand why more people might be accepting of this software that are not wanting to get into the detail that we tend to do in our GIS work. So it's a good thing to know about. It's a good thing to practice with and be comfortable with. And we'll come back to a little more of this over time, though we'll also need to be moving on to some other programs as well. So get in there and try a little bit and just send me some screenshots and things like that to just show me that you're working with it. I'll put an item in our Dropbox for this week for you to do that and give it a try and see what you think.